Hi there, and welcome back to the Norton project, restoration project. Thought just a little video for vlog 5 just to show you the difference between the Navigator and the Jubilee. I've had a few questions asked about how you can tell. So fortunately, the top end of the Jubilee that we bought, if you remember, we bought a Jubilee as well as the Navigator. The top end of that Jubilee is actually taken off. It was in boxes. There were some spare conrods and also some spare pistons, amongst other things. So I thought, well, I can show you the heads, because the heads are completely different. The conrods have differences, and some of the various bits and pieces, and also to show you the some of the tools I've been using as well, just pictures of them, because I've had one or two guys like Connor over in Australia. Hi Connor. He was asking about what tools you may need, because he's just bought a Navigator and a Jubilee, and he's also joined the Norton Owners Club to try and get some information that way as well, which I've done as well. So definitely worth joining them. We'll put the contact details, the website up if you want to join them. They've got a lot of information there. They do sell a lot of spares as well. There are other outlets who do sell spares, but there's a few things that the Norton Owners Club seems to do more than some of the outlets, but everyone's in it to help each other, and hopefully I can show you some of the bits that will help you if you're looking at rebuilding one of these engines. We are still in lockdown. I am working in the day, another warehouse for a production company, but I'm still trying to sort of get some of these vlogs done as well for you guys. But John and I are hoping that we'll get up to the container at some stage to carry on with the GL 1100, and I really need to carry on with the trike at some stage as well, but I just haven't got the time at the moment. I want to try and get all the electrics box fixed with all that as well, which as you can see on the channel, there's vlogs about the XS 1100 trike as well. So let's get back to the Norton, and we'll start with a few of the bits and pieces that are slightly different on the Jubilee and the Navigator. This is all laid out on a dining room table, but I have got a lot of paper down. There's a cloth with a big cloth underneath the paper. I thought this was the easiest way to show you. I haven't got anyone to shout at me, but I wouldn't do this at home if I would ask permission first by your partner or your parents if you live at home and you're doing stuff like this. But anyway, so the Jubilee is a 250cc engine. The Navigator is a 350cc engine. The Jubilee is split barrels. Also, there are only 6 fins. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fins on the Jubilee. The barrels are slightly different on each side. If you look at that and you look at that, they are exactly the same on the Navigator, the 350. Because of the way the casing sits, the fins have to be cut away like that for it to see, maybe better like that, because of the way the actual casing is, the way it sits, and the barrels of the Navigator, which is the 350, is the same. it has this cutaway there, as you can see. However, the Navigator has 7 fins. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And as you can see from the height, I don't know whether you can see there is a difference in height between the 250 and there. There's also a difference in the size of the pistons. So, whoops, that is Navigator piston. This is the Jubilee piston. And you can see there is a difference in size. Not a lot, but there's a difference in size. I'll show you on here. That's the Jubilee. That's the Navigator. So obviously, because it's a 250 and this is the 350, the pistons will be smaller because you've got less volume. You need less volume to make the 250cc. But as well as that, the conrods, the stroke, which is the movement up and down on the piston, although the cranks are the same, the conrods are smaller in length, also smaller in thickness. You can see there, that's the 350, that's the 250. Slightly thinner. Same gudgeon pins, same small ends, but if you put that 350 and put that 250 on top, get it as close as I can. There is a difference in length. Not a lot, but there is. I must admit, I haven't got the measurements, but I can find them if anyone needs them. So hence the conrods are not interchangeable. The big end is, they're all the same because they use the same shells, they use the same main bearings, they use the same crank. But the actual length of the conrod itself, when it's going up and down, you've got a shorter throw when it goes up, hence the reason why the barrels have only got 6 fins on the 250 and the barrels on the 350 have got 7 fins, because you've got that shorter throw. Pistons. Now these pistons came with the Jubilee. They don't fit in this barrel. However, the reason why they don't fit in this barrel is because I think this barrel is standard size, and if you look, I'm going to show you this on the video. If you can see on there, 020, that's actually 20 thou oversize piston. So someone's bought these pistons, this one's 20 thou as well. Someone's bought these pistons and assumed the rings look quite new as well. Most would have been bought, and this is a standard bore from the 250. I haven't measured it, but I suspect it is. And these have been bought to do a rebore to take this to 20 thou. Because when you look at the inside of those barrels, they're really rusty. They're really rusty. They need more than just a honing. When you feel the inside of them, they're very, very rough. So at some stage, these barrels, I'll get these barrels rebored by an engineer. I believe the clearance between the piston, forget about the rings for a minute, but the clearance between the piston and the barrel, 3 thou maximum that you should have. If it's more, it needs a rebore. You can also tell by measuring, this is an old ring, I'm not going to show you exactly, but if you have a set of rings and you put the rings in themselves into the actual barrel. Just squeeze this in and push it down. And then what you would do, get it down into the middle, but I'll leave it at the top so you can actually see it. But you would put the rings further down into the barrel where they're normally going to be sat. However, you would, if you can see, there's a little gap at the bottom there where the piston rings closed up. Depending on your, and the sheet, I'll put the sheet back up on the vlog of the technical specifications that I had on the last vlog. But that gap can't be more than, I think that can't be more than 10 thou. It has to be a lot less than that. If it's more than 10 thou, then 10,000 of an inch I'm talking about. I can convert it to millimeters if you want. But if that gap of that tiny little ring there, if I put a bit of light on, you'll be able to see that gap better there, like that. There's a tiny little gap there. If that's more than 10 thou with a new set of rings, it would need a rebuild. And I normally always mark my pistons up somehow before we start cleaning them as well, just so I know which one came out of which. Take that ring back out. Put those away for a minute. Each conrod, the manufactured cast, I assume it's cast. So this has a cast number on, which, let's get the torch out again. I can show you that you can see there's a number on there stamped, and that says A191, and that number will be on there as well. You can see that, some light on it, and that number on that side of the conrod is A191 as well. And those two numbers have to be on the same side on the conrod. So that, the number there, the number's there. You can't have it that way around. It has to be that way with the numbers together. Might be easy to see these ones because these have been cleaned up a bit. Like this when I got them. See the numbers on there. Different numbers again, but there's a different cast. Always remember that. You know, if you take them apart and you think, oh no, which way round was the bottom end, bottom shell, bottom half of the conrod, the holes to the shells, it doesn't, you know, as long as those numbers are paired and they're at the same place, that's fine, you're okay. When we bought this other Jubilee, there was a spare set of casings. Now, I know you saw me having serious problems, that's the wrong one, having serious problems trying to get that outer race bearing off, and I did it the way I thought was the best way of doing it. However, Andy from Norton Owners Club has told me as long as you put this half, the drive side of the casing in with the outer race in, if you put it into the oven, that's if you're allowed to put it in the oven at home. If you put it in the oven at gas mark 5, which is around about 190 degrees centigrade, and heat the whole casing up, When you take it out, as it starts cooling down, you just flip it over, hit the casing, and the outer race will fall out. But as you can see from this, someone's decided to have a go at taking the outer race out by drilling 2 holes in the back of the casing, and looks like they're taking a section of this casing out as well, because there's supposed to be a piece there, and then beating the living daylight out of it and knocking it out that way. That's not how you do it. You're not supposed to do it like that at all. So these are just 2 cases that came with the other Jubilee, and very nicely drilled holes, but it's, you know, and you will get it out, but now you've compromised there's an oil seal that's sitting there. So if your bearing sat on the inside of that, on this side, you're going to get oil coming through into the drive side, which has got oil in it already with the clutch in there and whatever, but it doesn't have a lot of oil in there, and it's, you know, it's not good. So these casings, the 2, and they are spare casings, these just came with it, they've had it. They can't be used. Well, they could be, but I wouldn't guarantee where the oil's going to be going when you're running around. The other thing is, casings are always in pairs. So you have a number in there. There's a number that's stamped, which says 405. There is another number down the bottom there, which is 20755. In there, on the bottom there. But I think that is the actual part number of that particular casing, but I can confirm that. That one has the same number. That light helps. It says 405. Because casings are made in pairs. They are made in pairs. We're getting some bushes made at the moment, because we can't get hold of any. A friend of mine, Andy, who's engineers, making some, and it looks like he's making some for the Norton Owners Club too. If you get new bushes, so you've got one bush there, one bush there, put your finger through the other way, you see it, and then you've got a bush sat at the back, one sat there, and that's for the cam, for the cams, which sit inside. Yeah, if you put new bushes in, you have to get them line bored. Now, line boring is basically you can push the bushes in, or you know, tap the bushes into place, but they could always be slightly askew. So therefore, they're made slightly undersized, so that if you put the 2 cases together like this, they can run a line right down the centre and run a boring tool down through this one, because it's the only way you can go in, down through there into the other bush onto the other side, so that perfectly in line, so that when the cam spins, it's spinning completely symmetrically going round. If it didn't do that, chances are, as the cam was slightly moving as it's turning round, it could end up causing problems with your valve clearances, the push rods, and it could, you know, cause problems. It could seize up because it's expanding. It's not expanding symmetrically. It's trying to turn, and the clearances of the bush are going to change, and you could end up wearing your bushes out. You could end up causing a bit of damage. So if you do get new bushes made, which is what's happening at the moment with myself, then I've got to get it line board. Now I'm hoping, whenever I get it line board, I'm hoping maybe I can take the camera down and we can go and film them doing it I'm sure someone will let us do that, just so that we can show you what it entails. But that's something that you would have to do if you got new cam bushes made and you put them into your casings. You've got to get that done yourself. Now, I didn't know this. As I said, I'm still learning with Norton Owners Club. Andy, technical officer for lightweights, the lightweight motorcycles, who told me this, and so it's just something you have to bear in mind. Now, the other thing, bearings. Something else I was told by the Norton Owners Club is that the bearings that sit in the main bearings that sit in the crankcases for the Dominators, the Navigator, the Jubilee, and the Electra, which is the electric start version of the Navigator and the Jubilee. The bearings that you buy without modification fit in a Dominator without a problem, but the bearings, when you put them into the Navigator or the Jubilee, have to have some of the bearing machined off. The reason being is that there's a slight lip on the crank on the 250 and 350 cranks themselves. Norton Owners Club actually do the modification that is needed. So when you buy them off them, the modification's done, and as long as the modification is actually sitting crank side of the in the engine, which you'll see when we're rebuilding it. I'm just sort of explaining things. You just don't go and start buying bearings and stuff and thinking you can just bang it together. Okay, so on the tool side, as you can see, this is an external and an internal bearing puller. You can see how I used it to get the inner race of the bearing off on the crank. Gives you a better picture there. Around about £150 that kit on eBay, I think it was. I can give you details if required. On the left hand side, this is a holder which actually you can use on a drill or a pillar drill, and it'll just take all the rust off of the barrel. It will not do a rebore. This is just to clean the barrels up. You have to be careful with that. On the right hand side is the piston rings, grips, which you'll see more about when we put the pistons back in the barrels. Left hand side of this picture is a clutch basket holder to take the nut off in the middle of the clutch basket. And on the right hand side, you've seen that before, that's the extractor for the drive sprocket. These differences are the obvious ones really on the engine. However, there are other differences between a Jubilee and a Navigator, including the front drum brake. I think it's slightly bigger. The headstock is different. It's a lot meatier on the Navigator because the horsepower was more with it being a 350. And there's a few other differences as well, but we'll go through them as we start looking at the rest of the bike. But just thought I'd mention that now. Keep listening, keep watching. Hope you enjoy the music as well. I'm trying to get some more of this album done. It's all the music's for a new album, which I'm trying to finish off recording. And keep coming in with your comments and subscriptions and everything. It's fantastic. It's nice to know there's people out there who are interested in what we're doing, and take care. Hope this lockdown finishes soon. Be safe, ride safe, and for myself, Phil. I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.